I swear, I'm a full believer that we jumped universes or something. Since 2012, things have been a bit off. Something really weird happened in the last few years, in which the New York Times wrote an article regarding the US government and their access to UFOs and materials. They were still called UFOs at this time. Since then, time has moved on, and we've had so many other world events happen in the forefront that this news just sort of got pushed to the back burner and everyone just forgot. I like to think of myself as pretty reasonable when it comes to the subject of UFOs and just the subject of paranormal in general. I don't believe just anything I see or hear, but sometimes things just make sense, or don't. With that being said, if you're new here, hi, I'm Crystal. This is Getting Spooky, where we talk about the creepy, weird, and obscure. Today, we're talking about what the actual hell is going on with UFOs, because it's a lot. Some say the start of this story is the 1940s. A mysterious object crashes in the desert of New Mexico, but it actually doesn't. It starts way before that. Way before that. I know a lot of people have done videos on the Anunnaki, and there's so much lore that you do need a whole video on it. So I'll give you the brief rundown. The stories are the Anunnaki were beings that came from planet Nibiru to farm gold as a resource for them to live on their planet. They created us, allegedly, the human race, to be used as a slave to farm their gold. They also taught us agriculture since they needed more slaves to farm gold. There's no actual proof that the Anunnaki existed, but the Sumerians do have a lot of art, writings, and worship them as gods. In these stories, the Anunnaki built the pyramids as well. I know it sounds batshit insane, right? But what if it wasn't? I think it's interesting if you go through time and history of cultures, listen to the stories and the lore that they tell. The Hopi Indians have stories of ant people who saved them from cataclysm twice in their history, once when the world died of fire, the other from ice. The story is that the Hopi people followed a strange cloud during the day and a shooting star at night. This led them to the sky god. He showed them the way to the ant people, who took them into their caves during the cataclysms. The Hopi described the ant people as generous and helpful to them, showing them ways to live and leaving them food and other supplies when the Hopi appeared to be struggling. While researching her academic paper on purgatory, which is now a book, Diana Washpalsuka discovered that there was a lot of similarities to what we consider divine intervention and the common reported UFO encounter, or even abduction stories. She actually went to the Vatican and transferred a lot of the texts. For example, she often refers to Saint Francis of Assisi, who suffered what could be considered radiation burns during an encounter, but in the Bible it's written as stigmata. Stigmata is where a person bears the wounds of Christ. It's all very, very deep. With that mindset, she began to look at other divine interventions or spiritual encounters with angels or demons. And she realized that the stories all appeared to have the same characteristics of one another. She was contacted soon after that by members of these high-ranking military circles, FBI, those sorts. She, of course, has no idea why they're interested in her field of study. Turns out, hey, little green men are probably something very different, and we're looking to God for answers on this one. How absolutely crazy does something have to be that you have no other option but to look spiritually or to God? Jacques Vallée is another interesting person. He saw a UFO as a child, went on to work at the French Space Agency. While working there, they discovered an anomaly orbiting the sun that shouldn't have been there. They were approached by an unknown superior, and the evidence was destroyed, allegedly. Jacques Vallée has since become like the go-to guy and has dedicated a lot of his career and research to this phenomenon. He's penned out the 5 arguments against the extraterrestrial origin of unidentified flying objects, and has suggested that events such as the Virgin Mary apparition sightings are a form of a UFO experience. Dr. Gary Nolan, who is this super smart guy, has done things in genetics and worked with Nobel Prize people. He's obtained some of these materials from an alleged crash site that he and Diana Palsuka visited with a third party who is referred to as pseudonym in her book. When Dr. Nolan was asked via the moderator at the annual SALT conference, which is a conference for investment people, he was asked, "Do you believe that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited planet Earth?" "I think you can go a step further. It hasn't just visited. It's been here a long time, and it's still here," Dr. Nolan replied. Dr. Nolan and Neil deGrasse Tyson are beefing currently. Well, allegedly.
Neil deGrasse Tyson needs to grow up. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson is jealous. You can publish that.
But that too is a whole other video. And Dr. Nolan appears to have thrown Diana Palsuka under the bus as well while I was editing this. As I mentioned, this topic is so hard to cover in one video because it just changes day to day. In 1947, an unknown craft, aka weather balloon, crashed in the desert right outside of Roswell, New Mexico. I think we all know this story. The initial reports were allegedly very different from the ones that are today. The reports officially were an unknown craft or a disc. We, of course, got the balloon that fell from the sky, crashed into bits. Since then, the government has gone to great lengths to let everyone know that UFOs aren't real, and they did not have any super secret underground bases researching little green men crashed from that day and reverse engineering them for the past 75 years. Recently, though, we had some whistleblowers come forward with reports and stories of high-ranking people within the Department of Defense that things we did not understand were being seen in the skies of this planet. David Grush went on the record to confirm that the U.S. military did have items or craft of unknown origin, and that due to his position in the military, he was privy to specific information. Let's just break down who Grush is. I sometimes forget that everybody is not as weird as me. So David Grush is someone who's in the position in the military to collect reports for presidential briefings. So however often they happen, daily, weekly, monthly, I don't know. To collect information, he interviews specific people from different departments. And the people that he interviewed allegedly did have some of their hands in this honeypot, quote unquote. And they did have to debrief reports of encounters with things in the sky, unknown projects within the depths of our oceans, and black projects being ran of whatever mountain Lockheed Martin has their underground facilities in, allegedly. Insert the military guys and frickin' Tom DeLonge. The military-industrial complex is a completely different view on this phenomenon, and as you can imagine, they think, or are convinced rather, that this is more of a threat than encounters. Tom DeLonge, unconvinced, they tell this guy any old thing just to give him some juice to spread the message of whatever it is. Tom DeLonge, as well as a few other men, founded To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences. When I say other men, these men have various backgrounds. One has a movie company called Cartel Productions, and it's literally the most generic website I've ever seen. It just screams sus. The other people that had founded To the Stars have, like I said, various other backgrounds, CIA, things like that. Lou Elizondo also has been in the forefront of the discussion of disclosure. He resigned from his post in 2017 in protest to the secrecy being kept within the Department of National Security. He also has a lot of claims, and he says a lot of things that freak people out. Mainly this.
What if there was knowledge, Kurt, that was so volatile, so earth-shattering, that the mere knowledge of that getting out could predicate an action that could potentially threaten the entire species?
Like I said before, he's not the only one that shares the sentiment of this. They're military-minded. They think of this sort of thing in terms of battle. Lou said it himself. It's certainly a real, if we tell you, we have to kill you type scenario, isn't it? Oh, and just to clarify, Lou is a former counterintelligence officer. He's literally trained by the government to lie to people to convince them things. It's important, I think, to keep that in mind. So what's the real deal with aliens? No one knows. If you want to go there and believe it, these people claim that these beings are already here and they influence our world, both malevolent and benevolent. What is it that's going to blow our minds so much that we could potentially implode as a species if they told us? I think if I were to go with a theory, I think that it's very possible that we were created to be used as slaves to help with their farming of gold. They taught us to survive, watched us grow like an ant farm. Is this little green men or gods, angels, and demons? And when did we even get here? I'd like to know what you think about all of this, whatever it is. Truthfully, in the end, it's all a grift. If the aliens are here, there's nothing we can do about it. If it's God intervening because we fucked up so bad, then maybe we deserve it. I think that wraps this one up. It's been a long one. If you want to see exclusive content not shown on YouTube, my Patreon's only $1. You should scoop that up for over 150 creepypasta type stories and unedited videos. As always, I'm Crystal. This is Getting Spooky, and I'm out.